Welcome all persons who are currently present as we seek to close out our final week of training on the Accelerator, the week training content. We want to close strongly and in our usual engaging manner, right? So today we have quite a bit to cover. I won't be able to stay for the entire segment of today's session. So I'll be going first and then handing over to Gilbert to handle his modules, right? So I'm gonna jump straight into it right now. Share my screen again. Share my screen. All right, is everybody here? I just want to confirm that everybody is here. Gilbert, you hear me? Or anybody else can respond?
Yeah, loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Yes, I can hear.
Yeah, we can hear.
All right, great.
Very good.
All right, so for this morning session, for my session, we're going to be talking a little bit about scaling e-commerce businesses with automation. Now, automation can become a very deep topic, a very complex topic. At this point in time, what we want to do is introduce the concept so we understand where to go after we have set up an e-commerce business, and you set up your operations, which Gilbert is going to talk some more on after my session. But no, you'll find a little bit of revenue, you're getting some sales, and now you need to figure out, all right, how do I become a little bit more efficient? And efficiency is a continuous process of development and adjustment. But where automation is concerned, you can achieve a lot more with automation. Why do you need automation? At the end of the day, you have to understand the journey of a business. A business typically is first a startup, then it becomes a micro or a small business, becomes a medium business, and becomes a large business. What allows it to scale from stage to stage is normally number of customers, number of sales activity, number of team members, and as the business grows and grows, you have to find ways to support the business in an efficient way. One of the beauties about e-commerce is that e-commerce is one of the most scalable business models out there that allow you to, let's say, for instance, start with a staff complement of 3 and earn even $500,000 a year USD in sales. But if, let's say, for instance, you want to grow to $1 million a year or $2 million per year, then you're going to have to increase the amount of persons supporting the business, whether it is through more sales reps, more marketing persons, more admin persons, whatever that looks like for each business, it will vary. But at the end of the day, as you manage more customers, you have to scale the way how you manage them. And that is really where automation comes into play. It really helps you to manage a large number of customers, inquiries, issues, sales, logging, all of that, and staying on top of your business can be quite a tedious process in and of itself. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, about steps that you can take to automate and different areas of your business that you can automate and how you can automate, right? So the topics include marketing automation, centralizing your operations, automating key processes, and customer relationship management. I'm going to start off with automation. Marketing automation refers to software platforms and technologies designed for marketing departments and organizations to effectively market on multiple channels online and automate repetitive tasks. So you'd have seen here with a specific mention about online, because this is really where marketing automation is a digital process. I'm not aware of any type of automation where marketing is concerned that can happen offline. If you guys know of, you can share. But generally, marketing automation is a digital process. So when you think about marketing automation, some of the things you want to think about are how is that you generate leads. So we talk about lead generation and lead management using advertising. Pay-per-click advertising are some of those tools that can be used for digital advertising and automation. So for instance, we talk about setting up your Google search engine ads, where once persons search for products you sell, the name of your business or your competitors, automatically these leads are coming to you. And this is something that you can set leave and just monitor and tweak as you go. It's not something that you have to do every single time. It's not something that you have to set up a campaign every single time, but you can set and leave this as is. Similarly for Facebook and Instagram advertising, you can set up these ads in your marketing platforms, let them run for a continuous period of time without having to be sitting over it every single day or even every single week, right? Similarly with email and SMS campaigns, you're able to prepare your content, schedule them to be sent out over periods of time, and they just continuously run, right? Without you having to engage. So digital advertising is one of the first steps in automating your marketing, where you prepare your content, you prepare your advertising, schedule and budget, and just run the ads accordingly, right? Then of course, your website landing page plays a major part in the automation process, because this is where the customers land after you advertise to your products and services out there, to whether they public at large or to a mailing list or contact list. Then typically want to push them towards your website. And marketing automation cannot be achieved. Well, let me not say cannot be achieved, because tools are coming out every single day that are built for Facebook, Instagram, and other non-website channels, right? That allow you to be able to capture leads and push them somewhere. So there are actually tools, advertising tools that I'm aware of that are on public social media, but generally the best place to land your customers for marketing automation is on your website, because you have more control over what you do with them thereafter. But you can use lead generation campaigns from social media to actually land traffic on your social media page and start to collect leads and so forth, right? But the reason for landing customers on your landing page is so that you can show them, for instance, your mailing list opt-in options, where persons sign up for a discount, or you sign up for a free download of something, or you sign up for anything of value really, can be used to get persons into your mailing list. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit after. But your website is one of those key elements of your marketing automation resources that can be used to capture and convert customers. So for instance, you have a sign-up form on your website, you have products being sold on your website. When you land a customer on your website, you can drive them towards the sign-up areas or the purchase areas for them to complete a purchase, right? Or you can have them opt in to a mailing list. Now let's talk a little bit about mailing lists, because it's important to understand that not every person who lands on your website the first time will buy on that first go, and that is why it's important to capture leads who land on your website. So if you're building now a mailing list or a community list of persons who have general interest in your products, that you can remarket to them, right? Which is the last area that I want to touch on for marketing automation. Once you have persons into a mailing list, what this means is that you will have marketed to them before. They would have found your website, they would have entered their email address to download something, or to, as you said, to access some type of special. And once they get into that list, then you have your contact information to remarket to them. Remarketing is very powerful, guys, because remarketing is what makes a customer think about you even more during the time when they discovered you, or they're considering buying something from you. So I'm sure at some point in time you would have gone on Amazon, gone on a website and left that website and browsing on news tabloid, browsing on next website, and you just see this product following you all around. It's just haunting you. It's like it's saying, buy me, buy me, buy me, buy me. That is marketing, and that is marketing automation, specifically remarketing automation, right? Where they can use the social media advertising platforms to retarget customers who have visited a website, who have visited a particular page, who have clicked on a product. These are things that are very achievable with remarketing. You can even use email remarketing automation as well to say that, all right, customer visited our website and filled out a form, or they made a purchase and you want to get them to purchase again, and you can share with them new products that you have, or products within that category that they bought, or maybe complementing categories. So if somebody bought a shoes, maybe they want a pants or a dress, right? Or maybe they want a bag, you know, things that complement. You have to understand your customer journey in order for you to be able to remarket effectively to your prospects. I want to talk a little bit about the opt-in campaigns though. There is a concept of using lead magnets, which are what we call our valuable assets that we give customers for free, right? Something that we know the customer definitely wants. So in the case of a Nickel's Beauty, it could be something like a style book, a lookbook, something that shows all the different hairstyles that you can get that may fit you and so forth. And you know, persons can look at it and say, oh, all right, I want to try this, I want to try that. You understand? And you know, you can actually download that and use that as an inspiration guide for maybe your next look. That's an example of a lookbook, right? And here we have an example of our lead magnet that I myself had worked with a customer on. So for instance, this client is somebody who operates a travel business here in Jamaica, a very successful travel business. And they wanted to get online with their tour business, right? So I said to them that, hey, you know, one of the best ways to get persons in your mailing list, what if you could put together a guide or an ebook about all the available tours in Jamaica? I don't think there's any one-stop shop or any singular resource that has all of that in one place. And that's what she did. She pretty much put that all together in like a magazine format and allow persons to be able to download it when they visited her website. So once persons landed on the website, and they got this pop-up and they downloaded it, and when they were ready to buy, or if they saw something, what you do as well is that in these digital guides, you will link back your products to different areas of your guide. So if somebody saw, let's say, for instance, a particular tour in tour book, they could click buy now, and it brought them to the website page or product page for that particular tour, right? So that's a way of integrating your marketing with your driving leads from your marketing initiatives straight into sales, right? But generally, getting persons into this mailing list is one of the key ways of kickstarting your marketing automation process, because what you want to do is capture some amount of information on them so you can reach out to them as soon as you feel like, right? This is an example of a lead magnet that can be used just to show you what it looks like visually, right? Then we talk about call to actions. Now, when we're developing websites for e-commerce based businesses, or anybody who is trying to convert leads to customers online, strong call to actions are normally highly recommended. And what do I mean by this? Somebody lands on a website and they're looking for, again, let's use the example of Nickel's Beauty, right? Nickel is selling lipstick, makeup, hair, all these things. How do I find what I'm looking for? Where do I want to drive the customer? What action do I want them to do? Do I want them to shop now? Do I want them to join a mailing list? Do I want them, what activities do I want? What actions do I want them to take when they land on my website? So for example, this is another example of a client of ours, Rev Jewelry, a very popular jewelry company here in Jamaica that makes handmade stuff. You know, once you land on her website, the first thing you see is a shop now button. You don't have to scroll, not even one scroll, to find where to go or what next to do, right? Which drives them to of course their shopping page, right? Similarly as well, in my own business, Mobile Edge Solutions, what we're saying is get a free consultation now, which actually brings them to fill out the pricing form, right? And these things, as we said, get persons into your list, get persons to take desirable actions that you want to take. This is a key part of marketing automation. You have to have strong call to actions. Either get persons into your mailing list, get persons to sign up forms, get persons to click on your links, just to get them into that sales funnel, right? So marketing automation can be very powerful and very useful in getting persons to buy from you who have never bought before, and to get existing customers to buy again, right? All right, let's talk about centralizing operations. Now, when you're running an e-commerce business, one of the key things that we always try to caution persons against is try not to find yourself running two separate businesses. It's very easy to run an online business and an offline business when you're in an e-commerce business because of how you may approach it. What we're saying here is try to run one set of operations, try to run one business, see your website or your e-commerce approach as a digital channel for sales and customer engagement, but it is a part of the business at large. So it supports the business's initiatives in every way, shape, or form, right? Now, with automation, you can centralize your operations so that you can monitor systems, networks, data centers from a single or a few centralized systems. Often you can run many of your systems unattended and consolidate your operation staff into a single location. And that's a key benefit, guys, behind automation and centralization. To be able to have your business running unmanned, running on autopilot, because you have consolidated everything into one process or one system, and you're able to now manage your system. So instead of having 10 persons working at different locations, working all over the place, what you've been able to do through centralization is to reduce your staff load and expenses, condense all your efforts towards managing these systems and just streamlining them. So you'll notice that the IT guys in any company, they always seem very laid back, very chill. This is because IT departments set up their services and systems in a way that allows them to continuously run, and they don't have any work to do until something breaks. So you find that IT guys are normally the ones who are fixing things, but they're not necessarily stressed out oftentimes by the daily runnings of your department, only whenever things break, right? And this is because, as I said, they've set it up in a way that you can stay on top of your business wherever they are and keep things going. And that's a key part of digitization. In my own business here, as I mentioned before, I have an office space. I have team members who I bring in from time to time for different reasons. But for the last 3 years, and even before that, by and large, we've operated fairly remotely. And being able to stay on top of productivity is because we have centralized our operations to integrate things like CRM systems, project management systems, accounting systems that are all available online to all parties who need to access them, right? So once we're checking these systems and we're seeing that everything is going according to plan, then there's no reason for us to meet unnecessarily. There's no reason for us to be huddling together. There's no reason for people to be running to me, Leighton, what do I do next? Leighton, what do I do next? All right, this is done, what do I do next? This is an entire process mapped out and shared with them for them to do what they need to do, right? So it's very important to understand what can be achieved when you centralize your operations, and e-commerce businesses are perfect for that because you already have a website with your processes, with your sales process running online. It's not about how do you integrate the other elements of your business so that you run one cohesive operation. Benefits of centralization is being cost efficient, as I mentioned. You're reducing resources where they are not necessary. You have a better command over your business because of the line of sight over what needs to be done, the visibility that you now have over who is doing what, when, where, how. It enhances the work quality, so there's less confusion in the space, there's less dependency on a manager to support a process. And there's also greater uniformity in action because as part of centralizing systems, everybody needs to use the system in the same way. So you find out that generally there's better documentation behind the processes, and people have to follow the same process in the same way every single time, you know. There's also greater focus on the vision, because when you're operating on a centralized system, you're able to set goals for the entire team or segments of your team, departments, and have persons work towards that goal. And every single time persons log into their CRM or their ERP systems, they will see these goals pop up and let them know how far they are in reaching those goals, right? So it keeps persons very focused on what they need to do. And it just overall offers proper coordination behind how you execute the business. So this is why it is important to centralize your operations as you scale. When you're starting out, centralization is not that big of an issue, because you're still putting the pieces together. You're still trying to figure out what works, how to make this business work. But once you get into it and you've found some success at what works, and you have a viable business that has been tested, then you want to look at centralizing your operations, right? And I want to talk about key marketing processes, key processes that need to be automated when you are, structuring your online business. I want to single out two main areas, which is accounting and customer service management. And on accounting, I bundle sales, inventory management, and customer management, right? Why is this important? So from an accounting perspective, accounting allows you to be able to track everything that is happening in your business. Running a business with no visibility on what is happening financially is a horse wearing blinders, right? You're not able to see what's going on around you, and you're not able to adjust. So for instance, e-commerce systems automatically come with logging of sales, right? But if it's that you're not running an e-commerce website, then you'll have to find a way to automate this process of what happens when persons buy, right? How do you capture and log these sales? Also, how do you manage inventory? As I say, you don't want to find yourself running two different businesses where you have inventory and you're not able to track when it is being sold and where it is being sold. Like if you have 5 lipsticks to be sold by Nickels Beauty, you don't want to find yourself in a case where you've sold all 5 lipsticks online 5 minutes ago and somebody walks into the store 10 minutes after and buys the same 5 lipsticks. How do you provide 10 lipsticks when you only have 5? These are things that are important. So for instance, as part of the e-commerce platforms, we normally set up inventory management as part of that. And you are also able to integrate your inventory and your sales logging with things like your QuickBooks systems, so that you can see everything in one view, right? Customer management is the same, as we have to stay on top of who your customers are, their information, who to contact for what. These things are very important. Again, e-commerce systems automatically captures a lot of this information, but how do we plug all of this into an accounting system, which generally is also another online system, but in a separate interface? Ideally, what you want at the end of the day is to be able to limit the number of systems that you're looking at. You want to keep your eyes on maybe 1 to maximum 3 systems at any given time across your entire team. Of course, we're talking about small business here, not a large corporation, but 1 to 3 systems are good enough to keep your business running. And synchronizing what is happening on your e-commerce website with things like your QuickBooks or whatever accounting solution you're using becomes very important as you're managing more customers, more sales, and more inventory, right? Then you have things like customer service management. When customers have problems, how do we support them? FAQs is a nice way of providing information to customers when they need help. So for instance, normally a lot of times persons have a FAQ page alone. And so I tell persons, listen, put those FAQs on the contact page, put them on the support page, put them on the places that customers are already going to try to find you, to reach out to you via email, phone call, or whatever communication channel, because this is where they will run into these answers to the questions that they may already have. Now, if it is that the question is not answered in the FAQ, then at that point in time, we definitely want to have the customer call. If you can answer the customer, address the customer's challenge without having to have a conversation, then that could be perfect, right? So we encourage persons using FAQs on their website, specifically on the support and contact pages, that when persons are about to reach out to you, they're running through it and they say, oh, all right, I guess that I've already answered my questions and no longer need to call customer service. I can't tell you how many companies have had to invest significantly in customer service reps to support different initiatives, right? And they have things like live chat and bots that can be set up on websites whereby, there's a pop-up, automatic pop-up engagement to ask somebody, hey, do you need any help? Do you need any support? These are sometimes good for sales, especially automatic pop-ups just to guide persons along the way. But you can also use bots, especially in the first set of interactions, to solve the person's problem. So you can have things like frequently asked questions that maybe were not covered, or even the same frequently asked questions in the FAQs can be used in the bot space, and after persons get to a point where they've exhausted, or the query that they have is not within those frequently asked questions, then it may kick them over to a live chat support person, which is a very popular thing these days, right? But you want to look at how it is that you automate your customer service management. And the next slide around CRM, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can take that a step further, right? But these are things that you want to consider, again, guys, when you're scaling a business. When you're in a business with 3 to 5 persons in the back office, you want to be as low touch as possible when you're dealing with a large number of customers, right? Customer relationship management. Customer relationship management is a process in which a business organization administers its interactions with customers, typically using data analysis to study large amounts of information. In this process, CRM systems are normally used for managing all the company's relationships and interactions with customers and potential customers. The goal of a CRM is to improve business relationships by helping companies stay connected with customers, streamline processes, and improve profitability, right? So your CRM system becomes also a major part of your customer service approach, because you would have, I'm sure at some point in time, we would have experienced having to call our utility company, whether it's the power company, the water company, the internet company, the cable company, and they can pull up a log of your interactions and say that, all right, Mr. Campbell, I saw that you contacted us on Monday, December 4th, for argument's sake. I don't know if Monday was December 4th, but just to another number. Monday, December 4th, and this was your query. We can see that these actions were taken on your account, blah, 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 blah. All of this is possible because of a CRM system, which is used to log what is happening with each customer. So that when a customer comes in and they say, can I get your phone number or your email address, something that is unique to you, they use it to pull up your account, and based on pulling up your account, they can then determine what actions need to be taken after, right? Now, when setting up a CRM system, these are some things that you want to know about your business, because you have to ask the question, why do I want a CRM system? And CRM systems, when you get them, they're very blank. I will tell you the honest truth. Adapting a CRM system in your business can be one of the biggest undertakings you go through the digital transformation exercise. Why? Because the CRM systems come blank with the capability to do these many different things. But how it is structured is it is set up in a way that allows you, the business, to determine what processes you want to set up digitally and then manage those processes. So it gives you full freedom to do this, and this is why it comes blank. So these are some of the questions that you want to probably satisfy, are things that you want to think about when setting up a CRM system. You want to know who, and your CRM system is simply an information system that allows you to know different things about your business. So you want to know who your customers are, probably how long they've been customers, so you can understand, at what point in time does a customer repurchase or what are upselling opportunities, you understand, things like that. And then you want to know what products they bought. So, all right, I have 100 customers. Did they take a beauty service from Nicholas Beauty, or did 50% of them buy makeup? And from that, you can do things like assume your average purchase for customers and make a lot of determinations from there, by knowing, who your customers are and what they've bought, right? Then you can also look at what sales opportunities exist within your customer base. So, all right, somebody bought a lipstick or a makeup from Nicholas Beauty. Can I sell them a salon service? When you have targets to meet, these are the places this is the place that you come to look for opportunities, and being able to clearly identify which customer has taken which product and what's next for them is very important in sometimes meeting our financial goals for the business, right? So you want to set up your business with these types of things in place. How do I manage my customers' interactions to provide good support? It's an example of what I talked about earlier, where you're interacting with your utility company, and your utility company is able to pull up information on your customers to know what is going on, right? And as I said to you guys, these are more advanced areas of digitization, but very important to understand that it is needed when you're looking at scalability, right? These are some examples of CRM system that I have used on my end. So you can see here where we have what we call Kanban views, and we have different Kanban headings for our sales process that we bring persons through. And our sales process is, because of the type of service that we provide, it's a very high touch sales process. Of course, for a lead to become a customer, a number of things have to happen to bring that together. So we just started using this solution. As we mentioned, I just created a new company, so we're just getting off the ground with this. So it's not properly populated, but it's an example of what it looks like, right? So you see here where we have inbound leads and we have outbound leads. So outbound leads, I'll give you an example of how we use it so you can understand. Outbound leads are the leads that my sales rep would manually find and call and populate. Inbound leads are leads that come from our forms on our website, right? So somebody visits our website, and I'm going to quickly show you an example of what that process, just so you can understand fully what I'm talking about, right? So let's bring up getpaidsuite.com, right? So once a customer visits the website, okay, it's coming. Right. So once a customer visits the website form, right, a person will fill out. Once they fill out that form, and you see here where, if you notice, the URL changes to Bitrix. So Bitrix, you guys are hearing me, right? I'm getting some instability errors here on my end. I guys hear me? Can somebody else confirm for me, please? I'm not talking to myself. Okay, all right, great. Thanks. Right. So this is an example of what I'm talking about, guys. We talk about marketing automation. Somebody visits my website and they click on the pricing button, and you see here right away you can fill out this information. I want to know your name, your contact information, your company, what it is that you need, and very importantly as well, we want to know, how did you find us, right? How did you find us, right? And then once somebody fills that out, and automatically that prospect automatically lands within our inbound lead Kanban, right? So that person comes into this central system, so that every single person, every single sales resource in the company can see that we got X amount of leads coming in today, and we need to action them. So if, let's say, for instance, the sales rep is sick and the account manager is here, the account manager can easily go through and make this call, because we have SLAs that you must contact this person within a certain time frame, right? To be able to take advantage of the sale. So this is an example of how marketing automation can help you, and also centralizing your system can make things just much simpler. You see, because of these features, I am not quick to advertise a phone number to call. I'm not quick to advertise a business address to visit. I'm not quick to advertise an email for persons to send. I simply drive persons to my website. So my communication all the time is very simple. Visit getpaidsuite.com. Once you visit getpaidsuite.com and you want pricing, you're going to end up right here in my CRM system, right? And right away, I know information about you, I know who you are, I know you have your contact information, I know which company you're calling from, I know even where you came from, maybe where you saw an ad, did you see an ad on Facebook, Instagram, did you do a Google search, where did you come from? Are answers that I already have once you have filled this out. So when the conversation starts, I'm able to just get straight into what you need because I've already captured this information. So these are things to consider. And then I think about project and task management. For a lot of service-based businesses, this is one of the biggest headaches to stay on top of. Managing projects, staying on top of tasks, right? Again, a lot of this solution, by the way, is called Bitrix24. It is one of my highly recommended CRM solutions, or rather centralized system solutions, because it does include a lot of things. You see here where it has a CRM system, it has tasks and projects, it even have HR management. It can even have, for instance, clock. You see here a section here where it says that you can clock in. You know, you can clock in, my team members clock in, and we can know exactly who is at work, who is not at work. You know, we can have schedules, things for them to work on. It is a very recommended system, and why I love it is because it is one of the few systems that give you almost everything that you need to start for free. I don't remember what's the total number of users that can access the account for free, but you're able to start for free, unlike many other systems, right? Also, it can be a little bit techy, but it is techy because it gives you range to do a lot of what other platforms don't do out the box, right? So it comes highly recommended. You guys can check it out. The name of it is Bitrix24, right? So you can write that down. As I say, it also supports things like task and project management. So you want to know what tasks should be done when is the deadline, who is the one who assigned this task, who are the responsible persons, things like that, and once you're able to stay on top of this type of thing. Again, right now my lead project coordinator is about to go off on 1 week vacation because he's getting married, right? And this is a system that we're going to use to stay on top of everything. And because he has already uploaded everything into the system, then I'm not spinning around in a flurry trying to figure out what I need to do. Bitrix24.com is the name. You guys can check that out. I've dropped it in the chat. But that pretty much closes out my conversation on centralized systems. At the end of the day, guys, as I said, it can get very advanced and very complex and very techy. But I want to introduce the concept so that we understand what steps to take after we have helped our respective clients to get online, and we now want to help them to scale. Systems is a major part of scalability. Systems is a major part of increasing efficiency. And I want to end on that note, right? Gilbert, I'm going to be handing over to you. As I mentioned, guys, I won't be able to stay for the entire segment today, so I will have to leave shortly. I just want to mention on our last call, persons asked about the workbook. As I said, that we would be looking to work on that, completing the workbook for you guys to have after we've completed these set of sessions, which may be provided to you within a week or two from here. But you will have access. Philip will send that over to you guys as soon as we finalize and send over to you, right? But I'm going to hand over to Gilbert at this time. Gilbert, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Leighton. Any questions for Leighton before he runs?
Yes, questions.
No questions? Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to try, as I said, for those of you who missed, I'm going to try to save some time at the end for that discussion we were having earlier. But for now, I'm going to try to jump into a few modules that I have. One is on logistics, one is on cybersecurity, and I'm going to try to touch a bit on data analysis before we close this session. Understanding again that these sessions are I know some people were asking last week about examples on cybersecurity. I'm going to go over a few things, not in depth like I would when we finally have the cohorts on. So let me try to get going now.
Gilbert, you're not speaking, right? Just checking.
No, sorry, just taking me just trying to pull up my files. 1 second.
Okay.
There with you. Okay. I think this is where I left off last week. Hold on 1 second, guys. 1 second. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, yes. I think this is where I left off. No, this is cybersecurity. No, wrong file, right file, wrong heading. All right, how we receive, warehouse, pick, pack, deliver, and handle returns. 1 second. Again, sorry for the interruption. Seem to have someone at my door. Sorry, but that's just out of delivery. Okay, let's jump in. So I think I asked this question last week. It's really important that you have a logistics plan in place that covers your return, as well as insurance policies for those for the entire process. Because you do have damages along the way that need to be covered by insurance. So whenever you put together your logistics plan, it must cover receiving, warehousing, shipping, insurance, returns, refund, and reprocessing. That package, if it needs to be. What do I do with the package or the product if I can no longer reuse it, resell it? Do I let in the United States, we have a practice of no return refunds, which sounds kind of mean. So how it works is if I buy a product from Amazon, from a seller on Amazon, and I no longer want that product, whether it's damaged, whether it doesn't meet my needs, whatever my reasons are, and I reach out to Amazon and I say, well, I'd like to return this package. Amazon would say, no, go ahead and keep it. And then they refund me. as a seller, as a business, you look at this and you say, well, that's kind of tough because I just gave away a product. But when you think about what the return process is like, it's actually cheaper, right? Because now you don't have to pay for that product to be returned. And if it can't be returned, how do you get rid of the product? So do I send it to, does it need to be recycled? Is there specific requirements for disposing of your product, right? So it might actually be cheaper for the customer to actually keep the product. So you have to cater for processes like these when you develop a plan. And I keep talking about plans. These plans, these policies that you're developing, plans become policies, policies become practice. You want it to work that way, not in the reverse, right? There are going to be adjustments along the way, but you need to create a plan, which becomes a policy. Then you put these policy into practice. This same concept is going to roll over into a lot of what I do and what I say. When it comes down to cybersecurity, you're going to see the same thing. Logistics is where it's like signing on the dotted line for your products, right? With your entire agreement between you and your customer. This is where it gets signed off. When your package reaches in your customer's hand and you engage that customer, as Leighton was saying, communicate, customer relations. As I said, I like to call it customer engagement. I want it to be more interactive. When you engage with them after they receive the package and you verify that they're satisfied, or if they're not, that there is a process in place where you can have them be satisfied. Whether that is returning, whether that is fixing, whether that is talking them through a process on the phone or via email of how to make whatever they bought from you work. So receiving products from or components from your supplier. I say components here, just in case you're assembling. Again, understand that this is not just about the small business who is either drop shipping, who are making the product fully. You didn't say you're a cobbler and you're making sandals. You receive buckles, you receive leather, you receive rubber, you receive glue, you receive all of that stuff. You must have a system in place where you receive those products, where you document and verify what you've received, and where you store and warehouse these products. Okay? Whenever an order comes in, how do you pick and how do you pack these stuff? How do you deliver it? What is my process for delivery? Am I providing a pickup window? Am I using a local courier? Is it going regional? We're using boat. We're using planes. The return process I spoke about, right? And then you have outsourcing your logistics. We have what is called third-party logistics. Again, something that Amazon, Walmart, a lot of the big suppliers provide a lot of this stuff. Our logistics partner, who I spoke about last week, SwiftPack, they're planning to get into this aspect of it for the Caribbean, which means their plan right now is to do warehousing. So Caribbean vendors can ship their products to the United States, to SwiftPack, who will take responsibility for these products. And when an order comes in, they would ensure that these products get shipped out. There are other solutions. Let's say they're t-shirt companies. Now, let's say you're running a t-shirt company and you want to make your products available in the United States. You do not have to keep that stock on hand in, let's say, Trinidad or St. Vincent or wherever you're doing your production. You could actually just run a website and the printing and the logistics is handled by a company in the United States. It's real time. Right? So I come on your website, I see a product, I like it, I buy it. The manufacturers or the warehousing or the printers here in the United States receive that order, they print it, and they have it delivered to wherever the customer is. So that's where you have outsourcing your logistics aspect of it. This goes a little bit further beyond just the logistics. It's actually producing the product. This is a big part of what we do and where a lot of loss take place in the logistics streamline. inventory management, and integrating that in the entire process of your business. It's critical. We make sure that we included it in our ERP solutions because we see how critical it is in terms of time consumption, in terms of product loss, and just fully understanding your numbers, the data, in terms of how your products are moving. So there are options. Let's say you have a small business and you have a brick and mortar and you have online sales. There are a couple of things that you can do. You can separate your inventory based on your sales channel. If it's on brick and mortar, you can say, well, I'm going to put aside X amount for my brick and mortar. And then I'm going to put aside X amount for my e-commerce sales channel. That's one way of doing it. But either way, we require that you do some proper inventory management. A lot of businesses in the Caribbean, from who I've been working with, still do spreadsheets, pen and paper, write down what they have, and they stick that piece of paper, or they do it on a computer where they save that spreadsheet and say, this is what we have. And how that sale is tracked is not well done. So very often you find business after taking time to shut down and go and verify, do we have this? How many times have you walked into a store and you ask for a particular product and someone has to go, even if that's how big or small this establishment is, they have to go and verify whether they do have the product or not. Because there isn't an automated way of tracking what you currently have. So we emphasize an automated system of inventory management. Yes, that is the optimum, but you must have some sort of inventory management. So we got in manual inventory management. Anything that requires entering the data into record keeping system, whatever that record keeping system is. But at the end of the day, this is something that you should have. Automated, integrated with the POS, point of sale systems. As I mentioned earlier, we recommend a complete ERP solutions, enterprise resource planning solution. These are relatively expensive, right? And it's one of the things that separate businesses in the global north from businesses in the global south in terms of the rate of success and growth. When you look at properly functioning ERPs, these can cost anywhere in the vicinity of $30,000 US to a couple of $1 million to implement. Very, very expensive here in the global north. And again, as I told you, as being a software solutions company, and our interest, our key interest is seeing some level of autonomy within the Caribbean region in terms of our economies. We have developed solutions that allow for Caribbean businesses to implement these tools without that burden. So an ERP would include inventory management, a point of sale systems, a sales management, purchase management, a bit of accounting, product management. This way, a lot of this stuff is automated, freeing up, especially in businesses that have limited resources, freeing up those resources to attend to other things. ERP would also provide you with some data analysis, which helps direct logistics decisions, right? It's important along the logistics line to take feedback from your customer, as well as if you're doing third-party deliveries, third-party logistics from your couriers, your carriers, whether it is the post office, UPS, FedEx, DHL, SwiftPack, whoever it is you're using for your local deliveries. It is important that you have a system in place. It should be a part of your plan. How do I take feedback and suggestions from everyone engaged in my process? This only helps to strengthen what you're doing. So we talk about the delivery from the manufacturer, whether that is components or products. Now you need to know what you're ordering before you order it. You need to know what you receive when you're receiving it. So there has to be a verification process. How you warehouse it, where do you store it? It goes back to verifying after you've stored it. Oh, I need to go and check. Where am I going to check? What am I checking for? I can verify that it is there. So it's sorted and shelved. You verify that. As we say, inventory management is a constant. It's not just something that I do once and then I forget about it. This is important. For me, this is why it's important to have some sort of an automated system in place. I can verify that without having to go back to my warehouse or to my shelves, verify that I do have these packages. I know I brought in 10 cases of Kim's nail polish, right? I sold 2. I should have 8 on shelf X, row Y. I can verify all of that. Again, this is constant record keeping because it saves you money and it saves you time. Here we go. Know precisely what you're receiving. Know precisely when you're receiving it. Why is when important? Why is important? When is important based on sales? I don't want, if I'm like, there's certain months of the year where you expect more rain. So I want to receive my umbrellas prior to the rainy season, my raincoats, my water boots prior to the rainy season. So that when in terms of season, when in terms of the time of the day am I receiving? Is my docks, is my staff going to be available for receiving their stuff? So coordinating with your supplier and their couriers as to when you're receiving products is also very important. How much am I receiving? I'm expecting 10 cases of this nail polish based on my projected sales numbers over the next 2 to 3 months. It gets here where I verify I only got 8. The 2 boxes, the 2 cases fall off the truck. Was I short shipped 2 boxes? The 2 cases get damaged along the way. Did I open up a few cases, a certain percentage of the cases to verify what is in them? Do not make any assumptions when it comes to your logistics. Because on top of that, now you're probably selling on your e-commerce space, not knowing that you do not have the products that you just advertised that you do have in stock. Verify everything. A lot of this sounds rudimentary. It sounds boring. This is things that we already do, but it is critical to the longevity of your business and to minimizing your loss in time and monies. Have insurance. If there is loss, it should be covered. There's e-commerce insurance. You could go out and you can get e-commerce insurance. I'm not sure if you can get it. I did have a conversation with it's a big insurance company out of Trinidad. Can't quite remember the name, but they do have e-commerce insurance. Pretty decent plans at pretty decent prices. Plan to the minute detail for receiving. This goes back as to when. Verification of inventory and update. So if you have existing stock and you just receive new stock, verify that what you had before is still there and that you're updating it with the new stock. Back up. 1 second. Right? It all sounds basic, but it's all critical. Shrinkage, which is loss of, this is theft. Shrinkage is responsible for up to 15% loss of inventory. Shrinkage is where your stock disappeared without you knowing where it went. So I know I had 15 cases, but when I went back, there was only 10. Is my staff stealing this? Are rats eating it? People are coming in at night and stealing the products when I'm not aware. There's 15% of all inventory losses by shrinkage. This is why verifying your inventory is so critical. Most Caribbean small businesses cannot withstand a 15% loss. Again, we go back to storing and warehousing. Examine and verify what you've received. 3 key tools is inventory management, warehouse management, and purchase management. This also requires communicating with your suppliers, right? So your purchase management, whoever is responsible for that, the purchase manager, needs to communicate with your suppliers to verify what you're getting, when you're getting it, how you're getting it. Your purchase manager, if different from your warehouse manager, and I know in the micro businesses, it's probably the same person and they probably don't have a process in place. These processes, again, they sound rudimentary, they sound simple. Small businesses tend to overlook them. And this is where a lot of loss take place. Make sure that they're communicating along the chain. Your purchase manager is communicating with your warehouse manager, is communicating with your inventory manager. If this is a single person that's doing these 3 jobs, there has to be a process in place where they can verify the 3 different aspects of it. Checks and balances. We go back to sorting and storing per sales channel. With proper tools mentioned above, you can avoid doing this, right? If you have proper inventory management tools, like a single inventory management tool that manages both any of your sales channel, whether that is from your website, from your brick and mortar, from your Instagram, from your Facebook sales, whatever sales channels you're using, having a proper tool that can manage all of this can ease a lot of frustration. Let's say you separate your inventory and you said, I have 10 cases for e-commerce and I have 10 cases for your brick and mortar. Someone walks into your store, they buy 10 cases, they want 15 cases. What do you now do? You're already advertising that I have X amount of inventory available online. Do you now quickly go and grab 5 cases from that online inventory, reduce your online amount just to reflect that you only have 5 cases and make the 15 cases available for sale? Having a tool in place that does this automatically for you would be great. As we go into the cohorts, I would provide you with a number of tools that can do this on your behalf. Updating your inventory and your suppliers in an automated or quickly as possible. So I anticipated that I will be doing 1,000 pieces of umbrella during the rainy season, right? But midway, I have done 2 weeks into the rainy season, I've done 800 pieces. I have to have a system in place where I can reach out to my suppliers as quickly as possible to say, hey, sales are moving much quicker than we anticipated. How could I get more supplies as quickly as possible? There are tools that we use for this, because this ties in again to data analysis. But the logistics process, again, this is all part of the logistics process. How do I get those products to me as quickly as possible? Using your store as a warehouse rather than having a separate warehouse. And this is supporting both your channels, both your e-commerce as well as your brick and mortar channels, or whatever other channels that you're selling from. Your store is where you store everything. Your physical store is where you warehouse all of your products. You use your shelves as categories. This already takes place, and you see this in supermarkets, clothing stores. As you go down different aisles, they categorize. So you know if you have to pick and pack from your store, it is in an efficient manner. I know exactly where everything is. I can pick and pack, and I can sell, and I can use these as for my e-commerce channel. If you're having your staff pick and pack, your staff should be properly trained in making sure that they have the right products picked for the order. So your staff who's picking and packing should have somewhere verifying what the order is. Again, we're working here with several assumptions. One, it could be a big company, it could be a small company, it could be a micro company. So whoever is doing the pick and packing has to be able to verify what the e-commerce or any other sales channel order is. It's supposed to be red pants, size medium, and it needs to go to X, Y, Z, right? Whatever the destination is, but that needs to be verified. we're putting it in right size packaging because we don't want to incur any additional cost that we don't have to. Verifying the product. Again, the same thing we just spoke about. It's red. It's size medium. It has whatever attributes the customer specified when they place that order. Not verifying these things could end up in a return, a dissatisfied customer, and someone who will not give you a good rating, right? So these simple things, just verifying what is being picked, what is being packed. Again, I want to say precision is critical. Mistakes will cost you, and they may cost you customers. As best you can, have a product per package plan. This is where we talk about, I think we spoke about this last week in right sizing. Based on my order, I will do this particular package. So it's only one. Goes back to a lot of things that a lot of tools that you need to have on your e-commerce website, so that you now know what is the weight of the package, what logistic channels that you're using it. Is it going by air? Is it going by boat? Is it a local delivery? If it's a local delivery, if I'm offering pickup, or is it going up by courier? If I'm doing a pickup, maybe I can put again a pair of shoes. I can put this in a well-branded bag, paper bag. I can hand it off to the customer at the window. If I'm shipping it overseas, then I need to put it in a box. I need to add this box. I need to properly label this box. So having a plan of how am I going to package my products for delivery is pretty important. The step is negotiated with your courier. So having someone, let's say you're doing local deliveries, you may not need a courier to negotiate this with you. This is something that you can decide on your own. But if you're going overseas, it is good. It's a good practice to have. Again, we use SwiftPack. To have one of the agents come into your business, look at how you're packaging your products and give you advice on how to do this more efficiently. Not only that, they can begin to give you a nice estimate on what your shipping cost is going to be. So now you can streamline those shipping costs. Or maybe like a lot of businesses do here, you could actually hand over that entire process to your logistics company, your third-party logistics company, where they actually come into your space, or you take your packages to them in its unpackaged format. If you're selling a pair of shoes, you take it in the shoebox, you take it over to the courier, and you says, "It's your responsibility. I want you to take care of this package. It needs to go to this particular address." You package it, you ship it off. You give me you give me a fee on that entire process. Label for proper handling and precise delivery. Packages get lost all the time. I just had a delivery, as I said a while ago. And as I look at the package, it's not even for me. The name is similar, but it's not for me. Right? I could end up keeping that package. I did send it back. I could have kept that package. I don't know if it's something that I would have wanted, but I gave it back to the FedEx guy. He left. Now, someone else may not be that honest. The package may clearly show that it's something that is valuable. So making sure that your labels are accurate. This product needs to be protected. This project is fragile, and it is going to a specific address. Now, the FedEx guy came and he asked for signature for this package. So yes, they had a nice process in place where I'm going to verify that I did receive the package. But again, somebody dishonest could have signed for that, and it would have cost the business another package going out, the shipping and the product. Based on your return process, this is where you place the return labels in the box. So that's another nice practice that we see being done here. So just in case someone wants to return a package to you, you put the return label in the box. You're dissatisfied, you fill out the form, you send it back. That's one way of doing it. All right. And I said below here, I discourage this practice, psychological factors and cost and time associated with printing the label now. So it's going to take time and money to print that label and put it in the box. Psychologically, if I see a return label in a box, it tells me, I could explore the possibility of returning this product whether I like it or not. So we tend to move away from that. That used to be a very prominent practice here. Now I have to call the customer service, customer engagement hotline and say, well, I have a package that I want to return. I go on their website and it walks me through the process of returning. Last mile delivery, on the last yard delivery. Communicate with the courier. We have a package that the order has been received. It has been picked and packed and verified. The package has been labeled and ready to go. So we call the courier and we say we have a package. The courier comes. Now everything is verified here. Courier comes, pick up the package. We do a handoff. Courier verifies that he picks it up. Whether we sign it, most of the time, I would rather something be signed to say, yes, it was handed off to courier XYZ. I communicate with the customer. This could be automated. Send an email, send a text message. Your package is out for delivery, or your package is now shipped. Friendly delivery person on behalf of the courier verifies that he has the package and he's dropping it off. The customer communicates with the customer again. Your package is out for delivery, or you have received the package. Please let me know whether you're satisfied, dissatisfied, or not. Right. So the process is once shipping label is printed and the courier and customer should be alerted, preferably through an automated system. Addressing countries without proper addressing system. So this is a challenge we have in a number of Caribbean countries where we don't have street names and street number and house numbers. So how do we address those things? There are a couple of things like Google has a system in place. We use a system called What 3 Words. We didn't develop it. We just a dormant system that has been sitting out there that we use where the world is divided. Every square feet of the world is divided into divided and named with 3 words. So regardless to where you are, even if you're sitting in the middle of the ocean and you jump in our system, you could put in the 3 words associated with your position or your location, and our logistics carrier can find exactly where you are. It's pretty cool. It's an open source application. Anyone can use it. Yeah, that's called What 3 Words if you ever want to implement that solution. We also use a system, again, really cool. Rather than using FedEx, UPS, or even the post office, we have a system in place where there is there are cars on the road in every Caribbean countries going to different destinations. We have drivers signed up with us and say they want to make deliveries on our business's behalf. So given the fact that I'm from St. Vincent, I'm going to use St. Vincent as an example. I have a package from a store in Kingstown and it needs to go to Georgetown. Rather than me making specific plans with a courier to get this package from Kingston to Georgetown, I put, for all the drivers that are signed up with us, I put out an alert on the system when this package is ready to ship. And I said, we have a package that's going from Kingston to Georgetown. Is anyone available to take this? First come, first serve basis. Drivers respond and say, yes, I can. And for a fraction of the cost of hiring a specific courier, this package gets delivered. This process is the same. The driver shows up, picks up the packages from us, verification takes place. Chain of custody takes place. This package is now with that driver. Now, in part of cybersecurity, we're going to talk about know your customer and know your vendors. We do that with the drivers. We have to verify who this driver is. Verifies that they're legal, they're legitimate, that they have insurance. And this package gets delivered to the customer, and there's a sign-off process. It was delivered to the rightful customer. Work with your post office. This is something that we've been encouraging, and I think we started some discussions with post offices and how we utilize what they currently have in place for helping us in the distribution of package, the last mile delivery packages. Post office own a lot of real estate. They own a lot of vehicles. They typically have a staff, and a lot of them are struggling financially. Have a conversation with your local post office. Talk to them about how they could be integrated in your business. These conversations are not hard. It's just we need to step out and take initiative. Keep the post offices alive in the best we can. They can offer you rates that typically the other couriers just can't. Right. Delivery times. So this is important when you have your website is you set different times so that you manage expectations of your customers. You can do same day, next day, 2 day, standard 5 to 7 days, extended 14 days. Just communicate with your customers. If you make custom products, if your products take some time to develop, make, and deliver, have that conversation. Put it on your website. My product takes 14 days. I make custom wedding dresses. It takes 60 days for me to fully get this done and have it delivered to you. Have the conversation, have that engagement with your customers so that they know exactly what they're expecting, right? Same day, next day delivery, 2 days delivery. I tried not to. I tried my absolute best not to implement for any business. Right? We see, I don't know if you know, but this is wreaking havoc in the United States in terms of the pressure on the entire process and the individuals engaged in this process. From drivers to picking and packing, people are working relentless hours trying to get a package out in 2 days. And sometimes when you look at what is being delivered in 2 days or same day, do they really need it in 2 days? Do they really need it at the same time? And if they do, here's my practice. There's a product that's selling on my site. You can have it in 5 to 7 days. It's $10. If you want it in 2 days, you're going to pay a premium on that package. The shipping cost in that package is now double or triple whatever the price of the product is. Yes, I know we're all in business to make money, but some of these practices are ridiculous. Let's not put that same strain. Let's not implement the bad practices that we taking place in the global north within our system. If a customer, I'm not saying do not offer it, but if a customer really wants that package in 2 days or next day or same day, let them understand that comes at a premium. Even in systems where we know that we can make these deliveries within a couple of hours, right? You have to understand that this comes at a premium because it now put additional pressure on our processes. Free shipping is not really or not ever free shipping. Somebody has to pay for it. So when I jump on Amazon and I said, okay, and I'm consistently using Amazon because it's probably the biggest retail seller, online retail seller. And I jump on Amazon and I said, I need placing an order for a product. Sorry. Yes, I'm placing an order for a product. And they said, well, the free shipping. If you spend X amount, it's free shipping. What you don't understand is that a lot of this shipping cost is taken out of the vendor's profit. The vendor signs up and says, I'm contributing X amount to the shipment of this product. So as a consumer, I see free shipping and I think it's free. No, the vendor as a business, I'm speaking to the businesses and I'm speaking to the BSOs now. Just understand that the businesses that you're supporting usually cover this cost. We could understand that if the volume of the products being bought is over a certain amount, and you have come to an agreement with your courier, hence we go back to having couriers come into your business and have negotiated prices there. Then you can understand, okay, there is free shipping, but it's not free. It's built into the price of the product as well. Order cutoff times. If I want products, if I'm offering pickup windows or next shipping within the next 2 days, 5 to 7 days, I can say order has to be placed before 10 a.m. 2 days prior to delivery, or order has to be placed by 10 a.m. If I'm doing pickup windows, I can set pickup window times. I can have a pickup window between 10 a.m. and 12 noon. But that order has to be placed by 4 p.m. the previous day. If I'm doing a pickup window between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., I can do a cutoff time of order has to be placed by 10 a.m. in that particular day. This is how you manage your resources, your limited resources and time. You have to communicate these things with your customers clearly. There's no hard and fast rules to these things. You have to use what works for you. The important thing is that you communicate those cutoff times. Make sure that they work for you. Don't just arbitrarily come up with times and zones and say, this is what I'm doing. Make sure that it works for you financially and with the limited resources that you may have. Return process. A dissatisfied customer, you communicate with the customer, understand what their dissatisfaction is. Do what you can to ease that dissatisfaction, right? It may not be clear in the beginning, but there are things that you can do, hence planning. Make sure that you have plans for these things. Set up the return process. This may be an agreement that you have with, in terms of the local logistics. 1 second. Okay. Yes. In terms of local logistics, you may say, I have a plan in place with my local courier to do returns for me at a reduced rate. Or the system that we spoke about, where we're losing local drivers. There may just be somebody that is leaving that area, that is traveling back in the direction of your business, who can pick up this package on your behalf once the customer have packages, have put it together to make that delivery to your space. Whatever your return process is, have a plan for it. So you communicate with the courier return the packages, you refund the money, verify you have an engagement with the customer again, verify that the packages is back in your inventory if that's what your plan called for. If it is going to your it is going to your sales rack as a used product, whatever your plan is, make sure that you verify that this is what has taken place. Communicate with the customer. Very often I encourage businesses, if you have a dissatisfied customer, right, and you return and they have returned the product, but they want a replacement, send that replacement with a 10% discount on your next purchase. So again, at the end of the day, you're not just trying to do customer acquisition, you're trying to build evangelists with your customers. You want people to go out and talk about how great your service is. Sending a 10% discount on your next order is a great gesture. Okay, you have to calculate those numbers, whether it's 5, 10, whether it's 20, that's up to you. Or you send something else within that package, a small token of gratitude, but not for being loyal to your business despite their dissatisfaction. Processing returns and refunds. This could be very expensive to try to mitigate that cost. Right? I always urge customer engagement, constant communications. They say malpractice in the United States, the reason that we have so much high lawsuit when it comes to malpractice in the United States in relation to doctors is because doctors tend to treat patients and not like persons, not like people. You come in and you address the patient as a patient, not as Bob, not as Jane, not as somebody's mother, somebody's daughter, somebody's son, somebody's father. That boils down to communication. Constantly communicate with your customers, address them, email them, text them, check on how this product has done, what this product has met their satisfaction. A lot of times if they're dissatisfied with a product, they may return it, they may not return it. But at the end of the day, they're going to speak highly of you as a business who respects them as a customer, respects the fact that they're spending their hard-earned dollar with you. It's a challenge that we have in the Caribbean when it comes to customer service. I can't tell you the number of businesses that I've walked into and I feel as if I am begging them to provide me with their service, that I did not work for my money, that my purchase doesn't mean anything to them. And you're talking about employees. They're not typically store owners. Again, so training comes into play here. Satisfy your customer, deliver what they ordered, keep your customer engagement channels open, communicate. Some customers will never be satisfied. That is true. Put a policy in place to safeguard yourself. Limit the amount of returns you allow. Again, that's a practice here. I know a number of the department stores now have that practice in place. Macy's was one of the first companies that I know that put this in place, where customer returning products so often. Home Depot, I know have this in place. I think they have a maximum of 40 returns per year. Once you've passed that and you bring back something, they tell you, no, you can't return it. You have exceeded the number of returns per year. So put things in place that are going to protect you. Keep records in place. Keep records of all the communication with customers when possible. This is so that when the bank calls you, the credit card company calls you about what transpired between you and the customer, you have a record of everything. You can hand this over to the credit card company and say, here's full communications.
May I speak?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I agree. I love this page. I love this slide. I think it's so pragmatic, culturally relevant, and you know, it really abides by pragmatic business realities. And I would like to share that there's nothing wrong. I mean, the importance of even a big logbook. If you tell your customers, that your clients, that it's okay to have a logbook, a returned logbook, and it's a diary for the day of all things goods, all unique things that relate to goods. And all it does is log history. That's it. And you develop a methodology. So, you know, if, for example, you have some codes. So code is returned. There's a code for returns out, code for returns in, and not one that we like or that accounting like, but that resonates with that owner, with that MSME. So that once they see that code in the book quickly, they know that, oh, I collected, I had to return, I had to deal with a return. And this is how I dealt with it. Because even when we come to writing manuals as they grow, when you talk, it is oftentimes done out of precedent. What worked? What lessons did they receive or have they received over time? And oftentimes it comes with hiccups and so on and so forth, but it's in that logbook. And it's important that we use the proclivities of the owner that is simply trying to abide by all these wonderful practices while having 3 people. So, you know, they're growing while suffering the conundrum of not being able to afford the people that the business ought to be able to afford. So I think this is fundamental, and it's fundamental if all of us as BSOs are able to speak this language in the language of MSME.
Wonderful. I really appreciate that. again, as I said, a lot of the things that I speak about here are just fundamental things that we tend to overlook because we are coming from we have to ensure, just as Andrew is saying, that with the language that we speak, a lot of these BSOs understand the language, right? We can't speak over their head. I'm presenting this to you so that you can present this to them in a manner that they understand. You may understand it. This music is in your head because you have been listening to this music for a long time. We have to play this so that they can understand it, so that they can hear it, right? What I teach are just fundamentals of operations. Some customers will never be satisfied. We said that. So put policies in place for them. Remember, policies become practices. Right? Policymaker should put policies in place to protect both business and customer. Implement a return logistic process. We spoke about that earlier. Set up an online return process for your customers. I like this, right? Because that logbook that Andrea was just speaking about allows you to automate this entire process. If you have a website, this is a simple form. This is nothing complicated. So now you have a record, you have data of how you address these issues. So as you begin to scale, as you begin to grow, you could always refer to these records so that your processes and your practices can evolve. They can be specific to certain customers because now I have a record of a certain customer who does this consistently. And you could say, well, I'm going to choose to bind this customer. How do I convert this customer? And come up with a policy of converting, because if this person keeps coming back to your website or to your products, there's a relationship there. Whatever that relationship, how do I harness it or how do I just cut it off? So set up some sort of a form. This is relatively simple. Where you find you return the product. So when you get back a product, they're horror stories. There are people you hear stories of people who have a blender that isn't working properly. And they go down to the store, they go down to Target or Best Buy, to any store. They buy one and they use that new one that they bought, take the parts out of it, fix their old one, and return the other one back to Best Buy or to Target or to whoever. Verify your returns. A person may have bought a dress from you and they stain the dress and they return the dress. And in good faith, you take it back and did not verify what you just got back. Or they bought triplet, whatever it is, verify your returns. Once you've verified that you've gotten back what you actually did ship out, update your inventory. And when I said verify, I mean document it. If you are receiving a product, and this goes to your warehousing as well, take pictures of what you received. Somebody's sending back a product that they bought from you, take pictures of it so that there's a record of what you received. Somewhere between the line, it may have been the courier that is dropping off this product back to you that damaged it. Hence, the communication with your customer is also very important. With the courier is important. It's a chain of custody that's taking place and you need to verify that entire chain. Sounds like a big responsibility, but it just reduces your cost. Refund promptly and communicate with your customer. As I said earlier, make them an offer. So if someone is returning something, get into your system, refund them the amount that they have paid for your product, communicate back to them, verify that they've received this refund, and say, here's my offer. If you come back, here's a 10% on not if you come back, but here's a 10%, here's a 20% on your next purchase. All right, you keep them constantly engaged in becoming evangelists on your website. No refund returns, I spoke about this earlier. So you can say, well, the entire process, if I have to have this, sorry, 1 second. So Andrew's asking refund amount or part thereof, right? So again, I don't know if I think I did. I mentioned recently I had to go to my car dealer to replace my battery because I was told that the battery needed replaced and I bought the battery. Cost me $100 and something, close to $200. Turned out that I didn't want it. So the next day I called up the dealer and I said, hey, I'd like to return the battery. He said, my restocking fee is 50%. Next day, just to put it back on the shelf is 50%. Again, these are your policies. I was not aware of a 50% restocking fee, so I was not happy. Had I known that there was going to be a 50% restocking fee, I'd have done my verification before I buy the battery from the dealer. So communicate whatever your policy is. Understand the authorities have a jurisdiction wherever you're selling your products. So what are the refund laws? Refund and return laws in your country. Figure that out. I know in some places there's a 14-day return. Some places there's a 30-day return. Amazon has made it a standard practice where 30 days is just open. You could just send it back within that 30-day period. But as small businesses, we have to make sure that we can do that, right? Regardless with Amazon, is regardless of the condition of the product, they will take it back. So write your policy, put it out there, verify what the laws are in your jurisdiction. Because you don't want to get the biggest thing in all of this, right, is that you're doing e-commerce. E-commerce depends on online payments, which means credit card, which means if the bank stops you because of a disgruntled customer, and you have credit card owners like American Express, one of my favorite cards to have. Because if I have any problems with a purchase and I call American Express, I get refunded almost immediately. Even if the investigation now takes American Express another 60 days, another 90 days to verify, I'm getting back my money. And then they open up an investigation with the company that sold me that product. So it is pertinent. It is really, really important that you develop your policies and you make them explicit on your website. What the return is, what the refund is. I'm only doing a 14-day return, and you have to pay a 10% restocking fee. You have to pay a 20% restocking fee. Whatever that is, you develop that with your accountant. You have to know what the cost is. Goes back to one of my first lessons here, right? Understanding your cost, which includes understanding this entire return process.
Which I think is one of the things that e-commerce has brought up for small businesses, where whether for goods or services that we, especially it's harder for services, but it's important for us to understand how much are we giving up when we really offer discounts, refunds, compromises, and so on, and a free gift. How much is it worth? Is it worth the argument? Do we have the latitude of the argument? What are the non-financial costs or opportunity costs?
Exactly.
Of going through this? Is it really, is it our personal egos? Sometimes not ego, it's knowing your journey, knowing what it costs you to get to this point, and for someone to simply quote unquote bully you because they know that you don't want the bad rep. Can be a problem. Sometimes we have to step out of ourselves and realize that we have a baby here and we have to take care of the long-term goal of this baby rather than our own self. And I remember once our client was saying that, you know, he has been through a lot with his wife, and she has seen a lot. They have lost their house, lost their car. They've been there, done that, and have the t-shirt to show for it. So the business started doing well. He learned, a lot of things, and he grew. And the company became better, stronger, more stable, consistent sales, and yada, yada, yada. So he bought a Mercedes, and he's saying to him, and they went on a country trip and so on. And you know, he was saying, so he assured her, honey, we're done with this now. We're stable now. No more this, we have kids now. No more disruptions. We're good. And then the car broke down, still having the new car smell. So he said he could feel her roll in her eyes as if to say, not again. More hardship. So he called Mercedes and so on, and that gave him the forcefulness, just knowing where he's from and how important it is to his family. So it's not driving, it's not his goals that's driving it. It's the whole, what it means for the family to be at this point. And when they were trying to negotiate by fixing it, he says, listen, let me tell you something. I've had cars that need fixing. I've fixed them. I'm not about that now. That's why I came to you. That's why it's brand new. That's why I cut that check. I'm not about that. And they still, and they thought that it was the sales. It was just, thought they were selling him. That's what he needed, but he was over that. So once the salesperson called him and he realized that these people are not understanding what stage of the transaction we're at. So you see where you said, boy, it's time to return to deal with how are we going to manage this relationship. They didn't get that for the great Mercedes. They thought it was time to attach sales and nice words to him. So the next time they spoke to him, it was with his lawyer. No more. Till he got his new car, then he was okay. We need to know what intervention is right for the stage of the relationship.
That's correct. And that's understanding two parts. You just mentioned two parts of that communication, right? One is cost and one is value. One is cost. What is it costing me and what is the value to me? So that hidden cost, that opportunity cost that you're talking about, that now sums up the value of that interaction, of that customer, of that consumer. You need to understand those things, both of them. Some customers are borderline cancerous, and you need to cut it. Some customers are evangelists, and you need to determine which one. What am I going to forge from this? What am I going to do with this? Am I going to build an evangelist out of this customer or not? I need to understand those things when I communicate here and within the entire process. I had the same challenge with Dell. I bought the laptop from them a couple of years ago. It's one of the reasons I don't use, personally, I don't use Windows machines for my personal stuff. I got it, and right out of the box, it didn't work properly. And I said, okay, they said they're going to send out someone to fix it. They're going to send out the parts to fix it. And it has never worked properly. Since then, if I buy something new and it doesn't work, do not tell me you're going to fix it. I'm sending it back to you, and I need a new one. Replace it, don't fix it. We spoke about this 3PL services, third-party logistics services. This is something I know, I think some of this is currently taking place in Jamaica. Not Jamaica, sorry. I'm gonna make sense of this by the time I'm finishing this sentence. So consolidation of products on the ground in places like Jamaica and Grenada right now, where we can get an entire, I as a small business, I can't fill in the container stuff, which reduces my overall cost of shipping stuff. So there's consolidated shipment on the ground in these two countries that I currently know of. And once it gets to the destination, there's some sort of, there is a microcosm of a third-party logistics services taking place where these goods get distributed to where they need to be. All right, that's us in the Caribbean hacking solutions. And I always encourage that. I like this. One person has a container to fill, cannot fill it. We put out an announcement, hey, we have products that is leaving from here, it's going to the United States, but you're addressing it. Whether that is a crate, whether that is a box of products, and we ship this out to a recipient because the owner of that container was already shipping it to a recipient. Once it gets to where it needs to be, that person is now responsible for distributing it to where it needs to the final destination, right? So that's us hacking third-party logistics in the Caribbean. We are actually putting together some solutions, some software solutions, and starting to work with Caribbean agents for filling containers for small businesses. Great. Here, how this works here is that vendor X has X amount of products, but rather being responsible for shipping, for picking, packing, shipping all of this stuff, he chooses to employ a third-party logistics company. Let's say that third-party logistics is based in Florida. So all his products goes there. Whenever an order comes in on his website, that warehouse receives a copy of that order. That warehouse staff goes, picks, and packs based on your instructions. You have specified exactly how you want your stuff packed, often in collaboration with this company. So that is efficient, so that is cost effective. And they will ship this stuff off to wherever, to the final destination. They usually have things like FedEx, UPS integrate, and the local post offices integrated into their system. So your only concern is producing a great product, if that's what you do. Ensuring that the products get sold on your website, your marketing process, and ensuring communication with the customer. All just this aspect of it, the headache of that, the shipping, the returning, and all that other stuff, these third-party logistics companies take off. I'll share some prices with you. Because of where the logistic market is, these prices are constantly changing. Job shipment. I spoke again. This product is with the manufacturer. You have a website, and that products get job shipped based on your marketing and your customer engagement practices. Your sales are based strictly on who you are, how you sell your product, and how you engage with your customers. It behooves me to say, whenever you're doing job shipment, whenever you start in job shipment, make sure you don't just read about the products online and have a salesperson from those manufacturers call you and tell you, use the product. Verify that it is good. Because you're not just selling your product, you're selling your brand. All right, this is the product that is coming from, whether it's China, whether it's Korea, whether it's any place in the Caribbean. Verify that the product is what it says it is, that it does what it says it does, that it brings the value that you're presenting it to bring. Don't just jump on this bandwagon because you've heard of job shipment and it does so well. Right? You invest in time and money on your branding into this product. Protect yourself. For third-party logistics, get a detailed service level agreement, an SLA from your third-party logistics or job shipment supplier. So, this annual agreement, hence, again, as BSOs, the importance of having access to the services of a lawyer. What does this agreement say in terms of the quality of the products, the shipment of the products, the protection of the product, the pricing of the service, and all that stuff? How quickly and how frequently can my rates change? Do I lock into a particular rate over a period of time, right? Am I expecting shipping costs to go up or down? I'm expecting supplies. Is there a volume discount on my products? All those little things. Find someone who knows about this. Look at those agreements and verify that it works for you. You still need inventory management from that integrates with your POS and order management system. So let's say I've shipped off, again, 10 cases of Kim's nail polish to a third-party logistics company. Whenever there's an order that took place, I need to verify that that order took place. I need to know that that order is reduced from my inventory because it's taking place in my point of sale system. I need to know, based on my data, that I could go ahead and I could start ordering more products from my suppliers. So it's important that you still have some, even if all of this is taking place outside of your immediate control, you still have data coming into your system that dictates how you buy and sell. You still need data analysis and reporting. All that wrapped up in my previous statement. Last slide in this. So here's typically what a third-party logistics costs, right? For them to receive the packages or whatever you're shipping to them, there's a flat rate of $25 for the first 2 hours. After the first 2 hours, there's a $35 per hour. Storage, monthly storage. $40 per pallet. As I said, this is relatively, even if these numbers were from last month, is one of the reasons I have not sent out the rates from Swift Packers yet. Swift Pack, they put out their holiday rates. In January, they're going to send new rates. Since COVID, logistics and supply chain has changed significantly. The cost of these things are fluctuating, or not just fluctuating, they're growing fast. So just the monthly storage for pallet was $40 per month. All right. $10 per shelf per month, $5 per bin. So it all depends on how much space you're taking up in that space. How much your packages are taken up within that warehouse, some specific packages are taken up within that warehouse. The pick and pack process of it is included in the cost. Free for the first 5 pick and packs in an order, then 20 cents per pick and pack for the 6-ton pick and after, right? Again, this is if they're just doing a generic pick and pack. They're using air pillows to protect your packages, to protect your products. Do you have specific stuffing that you want to go in the packages? Do you want them to do flyers in there? Do you want them to do return, whatever you want them to put in there? That box may come at an additional. You're plain boxes. If you want your boxes branded, they can do that. That comes at an additional cost. Shipping specific to the order varies based on destination, weight, dimension, shipping services. So a lot of these third-party logistics would offer you shipping rates based on zones across, let's say you're looking at North America, which includes Canada, Mexico, Canada and the United States. Sorry. And it will let you know, okay, based on these zones, this is what the cost is going to be. Do you include that in your product costs? Or do you pay that additionally? Or do you pass that on to the consumer? Right. So they would alert you to what all these costs are. And hence, and from there on, you make your decision. This is my session on logistics. Let's take a 5-minute break. Any questions, any comments? Let me know now, and then we're going to jump into some cybersecurity. And then we're going to save some time for our discussion and getting the businesses on board. Any questions? No questions. Okay, anyone else? All right, so let's take a 5-minute break. We come back at 5 after 12 and I jump into cybersecurity. Are we all back? Ready to go? Hello? Are you guys hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. All right. This topic can go really, really deep. Okay. Promise you that when we get to the cohorts on board, I'm going to jump even deeper. I'm going to do some demonstrations because this is probably one of the most critical aspects of business operations, whether you're doing e-commerce or not. What we talk about here can cost you significantly, or it can save you, right? When we talk about cybersecurity, we talk about data protection, customer protection, business continuity, virus and ransomware. Ransomware, you guys are probably familiar with because you hear this all the time. We have had our experiences with ransomware. And we have learned a lot during that process. Ransomware is a $1 trillion business. Right? You don't even have to be an expert at cybersecurity to perform ransomwares on different people. You can actually go out and buy a script and run it. Right. And so, without further ado, let me just jump in. Do you have a business continuity plan? This question seems simple, but it is critical. I asked the question of just about every business that I go to. I know here, working in the United States, this has been a challenge. I've made a significant amount of my income addressing this challenge here in the United States. I know it's a big challenge in the Caribbean. So I'm asking you, the BSOs, as BSOs, do you have a business continuity plan? This means, is there a plan in place if something happens, something disastrous happens, where you could continue to do business? Do you have a plan where you can actually recover? That's a disaster recovery plan. Do you guys have that in place? Anyone, if you do, raise your hand. No hands so far. There's a small country in the Pacific, Vanuatu, that is currently completely out of business. Their hospitals, their hotels, their first responders, because their system has been hacked. Ransomware. And a lot of this stuff is preventable if we put certain practices in place. I mean, just imagine getting up one morning and going to your computer. It allows you in, but you have access to absolutely nothing. No access to your email, no access to your data. No, and worse, is that when you realize that I have no access to any of this stuff, you're wondering, who now has access to my information? Our experience with ransomware, one morning I got up, logged onto our system, no access to anything. Our entire website, everything down. It's a message. We have your data. We have full access to your data. You want it back, you want back control of your data. We need $30,000 US in Bitcoin. If you don't give us that data, if you don't pay us, then we're going to dump your data onto the internet. Luckily for us, Our site was not a production site. It wasn't something that was processing any customer data. It wasn't processing anything at all. So I was able to tell people who orchestrated this ransomware in much more colorful terms to go to hell. I burned it down and I built it back. I was able to do that relatively easy because we were prepared for issues like these. Not as much as we needed to be. Now we're in a much better place by implementing very small practices. So as soon as you can, as a BSO, as an agency, and as we go forward, we're going to advise our small businesses to implement a lot of these practices. We'll start with data protection. Confidentiality, right? We have to make sure that the data that we have on our systems, whether that is your personal laptop, whether that is your organization's network, is confidential. Only people who have access to this, who are authorized to have access to it, has access to it. You have to understand the sensitivity of the data that you're currently keeping. If you're dealing with small businesses, you probably have a lot of very sensitive information. A lot of you operating on your laptop, and you definitely have very sensitive information on it. Information that can be used, yes, for ransomware, for blackmail. And we walk around carelessly with this information, or we operate carelessly because we don't envision any of this stuff happening to us, because I don't know why, but it can. And eventually, if you're not careful, it will. So as best you can, you have to protect it. Make sure that the data that you have is always confidential. You do that by, I'm gonna get into this further details later, strong passwords. All right, two-factor authentications, which means in order to get to my computer, you need two pieces of information, not just a password, but something else. The integrity of the information. Now, if your information is not secure, it means this is where hackers get pretty savvy. Is that the information that you're now putting out, someone could have compromised that data, or the information that you're looking to guide your performances, to guide your processes, could have been compromised. So you need to ensure that there's integrity in the data that you currently have, the data that you're processing. The availability of it goes back to what I was saying earlier. When you get up and you go to your systems, or your personal system or your network, and the data is, and the information is not available, you have to know how to protect on these three subsets of your data. Data protection. Identify sensitive information. Currently, Microsoft have solutions in place. If you're running Windows 10 or definitely Windows 11, there are a lot of features that you could turn on to identify, and you could begin to identify what is your sensitive data on that computer. I have banking information. How do I store that banking information? Right? Microsoft have solutions such as shadow copies, simple features that you could turn on. It has encryption built in. So you have to look into turning these particular features on so that your data, your sensitive information and your personal equipment is protected. Two-factor authentication. I use a system called Duo. Love Duo. Duo has, I can't tell you. I literally cannot do without. Duo is a two-factor authentication system. Two-factor authentication, as I said, I have a password that I use to log into my machine. Duo was owned by Cisco. This is free. This is absolutely free. Google has their authenticator. Microsoft has an authenticator as well that you could implement. After I enter my password into my machine, Duo is going to send an alert to my phone and say, hey, did you just try to log into your machine? If you did, I want you to hit the authorize button. That means I have given Duo my telephone number. I have verified who I am with them. So they'll send some information to my phone and I said, yes, it is me. If it is not me, then that authentication goes nowhere. No one gets in. You could build backups into Duo in terms of if you forgot your password, if you forgot certain things, you could put mechanism in place where you can do your recovery. But you can try Duo, you can try Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, two-factor authenticators. Great, very simple and free to use. When when the credit card companies experienced their hack and it was dragged to Congress, massive companies with billions of dollars were still using single sign-on passwords, one password onto the system, using the same password everywhere. Terrible idea. Try not to use the same password for each of your different banking accounts. Use different passwords. There are password applications that you can purchase at relatively cheap. I'm talking maybe $4, $5 that protect your passwords. So even if you have multiple passwords and you're worried about, how do I protect my password? How do I remember my password? There are applications for those. Doesn't cost a whole lot, but this saves you. I mean, just imagine getting up one morning and all of your personal data is out there on the internet. Fortunately for me with my Mac, as often and as rigorous as Apple is, Apple would send me notification if any of my password have been compromised. Because yes, I enter my password into different services on the internet. Let's see, one of my bank, I bank with Chase. If Chase has been compromised, Apple will send me a notification. Chase has been compromised, you need to change your password. I can do that. Right? So you do have information that's on the internet, but the information on your personal machines, your personal systems, you need to protect that as best you can. Backup your sensitive data. It's even better if you encrypt it and back it up. Google Drive, OneDrive, a number of backup places that you can back up your data. There is let's see, a 3-2-1 backup rule. We're going to get back to this on the website security. The 3-2-1 backup rule. Keep a primary copy of your data. So whatever is running on your machine, that's your primary. Keep 2 backup copies, 2 additional copies. That's 3. The primary and 2 copies. Keep those copies in two different media. So one might be an external drive, one might be in your Google Drive. Okay, so let's go back. So backup. Encrypt your data. Most of the computers that you see that you have these days have encryption tools built into them where it asks you, do you want to encrypt your data? Yes. Because if you don't, eventually somebody else would. When you say you're putting stuff in the cloud, you have to remember that the cloud is only someone else's computer. It may be Microsoft computers, it may be Google computers, it may be, I don't know, whoever you're using to back up stuff in the cloud, it's just someone else's computer, which means other people could have access to this. So encrypt your data, then put it up there. Make sure you keep your encryption key safely. Run antiviruses, make sure you buy all the free antiviruses out there. Microsoft Defender, great antivirus. An anti-malware protection. Apple has great mechanism built in for their protection as well. Make sure you turn them on. You get the computer out of the box, make sure you turn them on. Make sure that they're running. If you don't know how to, this is the importance of having access to IT personnel on your team. Turn on your firewall. Your firewall is a piece of application. Sometimes it comes in application running on hardware that protects your computer. So like on my computer, my firewall is on its own. within my house. Just get into my network. There's a firewall there. So there's one in my, I'm getting into the house, into my overall network, and there's one getting to my computer. The firewall says, this is who or what can have access to my computer. Something that I forgot to put here that is really, really critical is how do you access public Wi-Fi networks? Right? So I know the challenge of using data in the Caribbean. It's data from your carrier is expensive. Every opportunity that you get to use Wi-Fi, public, semi-public Wi-Fi, we jump on. This can be a very dangerous thing. Whatever is going over public Wi-Fi, it's an open network, which means everybody else in that network could probably see what you're transmitting. You need to put things in place that protects you when you're on these. So make sure that your antivirus is on. Make sure that your firewalls are on. Make sure that encryption is on. If you're going on a website over the public Wi-Fi network, ensure that these websites have their SSL in place. Do not do banking or do anything personal on public Wi-Fi network. Whether you're on your phone, whether you're on your laptop, do not. Employ patience. Wait until you get to something that is secure before you do that. Another practice that I engage in, if I have my laptop with me when I walk into a store, like I know a lot of the stores here, if you walk with your backpack or a bag in your hand, you would like to keep it so that to ensure that you don't steal anything. If you insist on taking my bag, then I'm not shopping with you because I'm not putting on my laptop. Right? It takes seconds for somebody to copy the data that's on that. Right? Me, I go further because of the type of work that I do here and the clients that I have. If I'm traveling, I have two different laptops, one for when I'm traveling, one for when I'm home, one for where I do critical work, one for where I'm just browsing. I do not jump on public Wi-Fi unless it's something, unless I'm doing a Google search for something, I'm looking for directions, I'm looking for a particular store, I'm just browsing, nothing important, nothing personal, no banking, no healthcare, none of that stuff. And understand that the level of protection that I'm talking about is I'm offering you protection advice for what we call script kiddies, or people who are just malicious. On a government level, there's no protection. Just come to terms with that. All right? So don't overthink this. What I'm offering you, I'm trying to not let you be the low-hanging fruit of cybersecurity. If someone comes to your computer and you have a two-factor authentication, you have encryption, you have a firewall in place, you have antivirus. As soon as they show up at your doorstep and they realize, it's just like having security at your door. And they come to your house, your lights turn on outside automatically. They see the sign that says that this home is protected by this alarm company. They take off. They go to the next home that probably does not have that protection. This advice, I'm not saying that you're never going to be hacked. I'm saying you're protecting yourself. Are you removing your vulnerabilities? Send them on to the list, to the low-hanging fruit. Protect yourself. Make sure you have your firewall in place. Limited access to authorized personnel only. So only people who have access, should have access to your computer should have access to your computer. Colleague comes over, I would like to use your computer. For me, I have a guest account on my computer. Well, no one else uses my computer, but just ever. There's a guest account. You can log on. It's fully restricted. That person can install nothing. They could remove nothing. They can do nothing except maybe browse the internet. On my home network, I have a guest Wi-Fi network. A person comes onto my network. That's all you have access to. You have a separate type that goes out to the internet, and that's all you do. Same thing when you set this up in your BSOs in your offices. So the businesses that you're going to be dealing with, they're going to come in, they're probably going to want access to the internet was there with you. Try your best to set up two networks. One for guests, at least two. One for your guests, one for your business. Right? Perform regular updates. Don't wait. Do your updates on a regular basis. Microsoft sends out updates when it comes to antivirus if you're running Microsoft systems. They send out updates daily, because the rate at which viruses and malware are being produced is, you can't even put a number on it. You can't put a measurement on it. So daily, Microsoft send out updates. Have automatic updates turned on your personal computers. This is another aspect of cybersecurity and data protection. Penalties is at the bottom of this list. Penalties is the scary part of this. General data protection and regulations. This is a European standard. For a lot of us, we think that when we open up a website, that the only person who can shut us down is the countries in which we operate. No. The Europeans are coming out with very stringent laws what information you can collect. I know Leighton just did a session on marketing and automation. You have to be very careful what data you collect. What cookies you put in place to track your customers across your website, you have to let the customer know. I am collecting these pieces of information. Do you authorize me to collect this information? These are checkboxes. These are not complicated things. If you have a good web developer, you know to put these things in place. Permission is key, and the ability to say no, and even after they said yes, the ability to revoke that authorization for you to access their information should be very simple. The fines, the penalties that the Europeans are putting in place are staggering. They will sue you, they will fine you, they will force you to be taken off the internet. As a consumer, I love it. As an ethical business, I love it. Because you have, I've seen tools in place where you jump on the internet as a consumer, and I'm shopping at Macy's. And then I move from Macy's and I go to Home Depot. And then I move from Home Depot and I go to my healthcare provider. And then from my healthcare provider, I go to my bank. And there are applications and there are companies out there who are tracking every step of the way. Google is one of the worst. Facebook is the same. This is why companies and organizations like Apple and the European Union are putting protections in place. I don't know if any of you have had this experience where you're just talking openly, your phone is close to you, you're having a conversation about something, and then you jump on Google and you want to do a search for something, and one of the first things that comes up is pertinent to the conversation that you were just having. It's horrible, right? Your privacy, you have little or no privacy. So a lot of the practices that are put in place are not there for your protection. Again, I'm going to step back again. This is for corporations. The government seems to have unfettered access to whatever you do, so don't overthink this. As a business and as BSOs, I'm saying to you, you need to ensure that the businesses that you're supporting adhere to these laws. Develop your privacy policies, right? This is all the information that I need. I need to be able to generate, to allocate my marketing fund. I need to know how to target market the people who visit my website. So I'm only developing and only implementing applications pertaining to my website and my services. I don't employ third-party cookies. So when you said you want to do Facebook analytics and you want to do Google analytics on your website, Prior to this, you did not have the authority to say to Google, well, I only want you to track what's on my site. Google tracks across the board. Facebook tracks across the board. Many other analytics websites do this. That protection is now coming into place where they can no longer do it freely. For businesses, whenever yes, you should. I would always recommend that you have data analysis on your website. Ensure you're working with ethical companies that practices this. Ensure that your practices adhere to your policies so that you avoid being shut down. You've spent a lot of time investing in your business. You don't want something, I don't want to use the trivial, something like this to cause you to have to be shut down or be sued. Know your customers, and I have expanded this to know your customers and the V represent your vendors. This is a banking regulation. This is typically along the line of banking and anything that has to do with payments and money transfer. When you operate in the Caribbean, or in the global South, I should say, you come under a completely different set of scrutinies, right? Most of the world is banked, most of the world currencies is pegged on the US dollar, which means US banking regulations tend to take precedence across the global South, which means we have to adhere to a lot of the laws governing banking regulations that take place in the United States. Although, not say that. Yes, you have to adhere to a lot of the banking regulations that take place in the United States. Know your customers. Not necessarily your consumers who are buying products. And for the BSOs, this is where you have to know your customers. These are the small businesses that you're dealing with. These small businesses or the micro businesses, let's say the medium size, would fall into two categories here. Know the customers and know your vendors. Verify who these businesses are. If they're under your supervision, if they're under your guidance, you need to verify. Understand that their business is legally registered. This business is in good standing. I'm going to show you a couple of forms in a while that you can download, that you can have them fill out. Banking verification is a good way to verify that your business is in good standing. So you reach out to the bank. Does this business have a legitimate, does this business have an account with you? Can you verify that this business is, because bank, again, as I said, the banks have to do this. They have to verify who their customers are. What forms of verification do you have? An address verification. In some instances, it goes as far as having biometrics, right? As businesses, you need to set a policy and practice and say, well, we're going to repeat this every year, where we go out and we collect back this information to ensure that these businesses are in good standing, that they still have the same owners, same people, and what their policies are. We need to verify these things. As a business, for us doing, as a marketplace, for us doing business in the Caribbean, we went through this with one of our processors where they were questioning, how do we pay and who do we pay? Like when businesses do the transaction on our site and now we have to go verify. Now we have to do transfers to them. Our banking process, you can't continue like this. We need all of the documents that you have collected from each of these businesses. You need to put them in a folder. You need to send them over to us. So that if Allison is selling products on our website, I need to see a copy of Allison's driver's license or her passport. I need to have copies of her business registration. I need to have copy of maybe, if she's a micro business, maybe a utility bill, maybe a bank statement. And I need to have those ready to send over to my bank. Because I need to know I'm doing business with. If you are micro businesses, you need to know how you are, who your vendors are. Who am I buying from? Right? Now you need to keep this copy of these Not because you're going to go and verify whether this person's engaged in money laundering, because the know your customer laws are built around money laundering, junk trafficking, and that type of stuff. So you need to protect yourself. You need to have this document in place to say, well, I did my due diligence. I did my portion of this, and I collected the information as best I can. I do not have the resources to go out and do the investigations needed, but I did the best that I can. All right. The banks, on the other hand, this is why, again, banks need to engage in this. They need to go further. This is why having bank statements, because the banks would have gone out and verified who these businesses are. So do your best to collect this information. And this goes back to what we were saying earlier. This is sensitive information. If I'm collecting information on my vendors and my customers, I need to keep this information secure. All right?
Question.
Shoot.
Is this for cross-border trade as well? For example, using an Indian firm to build an app?
Yes. Yes.
So what do you mean by policies and practices?
Policies and practices here is, my policy is, here are the things that I need. I need verification. Because you have to understand, your business, regardless of what stage it is, one person may not always be doing this particular job. So the policy is in place so that whoever is doing this particular job knows what has to be done. I need to collect ID card verification. I need to collect business registration information. I need to collect a copy of that bank statement. And I'm going to do this annually. I'm going to do this biannually. It depends on what relationship you have developed with that business. But you always want to ensure that you have some level of protection in place, showing that, hey, I did collect these. The penalties for not doing this, again, I was going to explain. For us, when we didn't have this stuff, luckily for us, we had multiple gateways in place. That particular processor says, we can't continue to allow you to process because we need this information. So we were able to process using our other gateway. And in the meantime, we scrambled to go collect this information. We didn't know that we needed. In fact, most businesses don't know that they need this stuff unless you go to a bank. I'm saying, let's be cautious. Let's collect as much of this information as possible, especially when it comes to cross-border, right? You never know who you're doing business with. And you may never know. But you're going to do as much as possible to have this information in place, just in case shit hits the fan. I did as much as I could to collect as much information as possible. Here's a record of it.
If I could just know what the headings are for the policies and practices, that would really help.
Right, so again, so we go back to the policies. The policies are, what am I collecting? What information am I collecting? When am I collecting? How often am I collecting this information?
Oh, okay.
So you see, so you as a business have to understand your risk level, right? What are my risk levels and what do I need to protect myself in that process? So here's my policy to my workers or within my environment. I need to have these things in place. This is how, and their policies would also include how am I going to store them? How am I going to protect this information? Because again, this is very sensitive information. You do not want a hacker coming into your system as someone, not even a hacker, sometimes someone from your internal staff having access to this information who shouldn't. So your policy would include who should have access to this information after I've collected it, or which member of my staff should be collecting it in the first place, right? And after I've collected it, do I print a physical copy or redacted physical copies? Do I have a physical copy? Or do I just keep it in software format so that I can have electronic access to it? All right. So we have to look at these things and we have to put these practices in place. Website security. This is going to be my last slide. I'm going to try to finish this as quickly as possible so that we can engage in that of this discussion. Leighton touched on this briefly in one of his sessions. One of the first things, oh, forgot to show you this 1 second. One second. Here we go. Can you see my screen? This is just an example of what I know your customer document typically look like. Are you seeing this? All right, so this again, India is different, right? India, the way that they go about their data and collection information is very different. They tend to ask you like your father's name, your mother's name, and all that stuff. We typically don't do that in the United States or the Caribbean, but for them, that information is important in the way that they would be able to identify and locate you. So these are forms, they're available on the internet. You could pick them, you could download some, and you could modify them to suit your needs. So you would have your customer or your vendor fill out one of these forms, and most of the vendors and their customers are getting hip to this whole thing. They understand the risk involved, so they wouldn't be reluctant to fill it out and submit it, or they shouldn't be. All right, you could do a Google search and download some generic documents, and then, as I said, tailor them to suit your needs. Okay, go back to this last one. SSL certification. So this can be an expensive implementation on your website. Good SSL app, or not, I shouldn't say the word, I shouldn't use the word good. Some SSL applications, if you use sites like GoDaddy, could run you a couple $100 a year. All right. This is, okay, let me just show you what this looks like for those who don't know. So up in this corner of this website, are you guys seeing the page? Just one person can just respond yes, no.
Yes.
Great. So up here, you see this lock. This says to me that this site has an SSL certificate in place. If I click on it, it says my connection is secure. This is what I was talking about when I said browsing on public Wi-Fi's. Ensure that the site has SSL certificates in place. It's going to tell you this connection is secure. It means that the communication between what I'm doing in this form and me is completely encrypted end to end. So no one else who's on that same network with me can actually see it. They would have seen that I went to this website, but the information that I'm transmitting now is completely secure. If this website doesn't have this lock, in some instances, you will see them actually have a green lock. That would cost you even more, but it's not necessary anymore. The website, SSL suppliers used to sell this as a upsell. So you think you're more secure, but there's no more secure or less secure once it's encrypted. So it says this connection is secure. Certificate is valid. It tells me it's valid until August 2023. All right, it tells me it is supplied by DigiCert. So having that in place builds some level of trust. It also ensures that you don't fall foul of the law when you're doing transactions on your website. Okay, go back to the slides. So now you understand what this means. This, as I said, this means it's encrypted and that this develops a level of trust. As I said, the paid version can be very expensive, but there are free versions. The issue with the free version is that they typically last anywhere from 1 to 3 months, but you could automate them to renew on their own. Means that you would have to have somebody who's a little bit more technical, not assuming that you guys are not technical, but if you're not able to have someone who's a little bit technical who could implement these and have them automate every 3 months, absolutely free, same level of protection, right? Application security. Ensure their website that would do this for you as well. Again, they cost. So when you implementing applications in your website, it's often critical that you hire third parties to verify that the application doesn't have any holes in it. Vulnerabilities where it makes it vulnerable to hackers. Third-party verification and certificates are available for these applications. Again, as we dig deeper into once we have the cohorts on board in January, I'm going to jump deeper and point out solutions that you can use. Some are free, up to a certain point and what they can help you with. On your website, depending on where your website is hosted, there are software firewalls and there are hardware firewalls that you could employ, enterprise type firewall. So they are stronger, they are more stringent than the ones that you would have on your computer. Antivirus, again, Microsoft Defender is what I use in our systems. If you run a Windows-based system, I know these systems are available in Linux and most of any of the solutions that you're going to use, please employ antivirus. Ransomware protection that I use is my backup system, right? My backup solutions would tell me if my backups are running differently, if my system is running differently. And if I jump on my system, again, I have alerts, they'll send out alerts and say, hey, something doesn't seem right. I jump on my system, I know I have backups. I have that I'm following those backup rules where I have multiple backups in place, just in case something happens. My system updates are automated. So every night at a certain time, my system goes out and I check Microsoft and say, hey, do you have any updates for us? Microsoft would say yes, collects them, distributes them across all of our computers. If you're collecting credit card data, PCI compliance becomes critical. There's forms that you have to fill out, and these are no small task. Like I have to go and renew our certificate over this weekend. I'm hoping to finish this weekend. I can tell you that I started filling out the forms maybe 2 weeks ago. It's a ridiculously long process just so that you can collect payments on your website. This is saying, yes, when you fill out compliance form, it's saying, yes, I have done my due diligence. I have put certain protections in place to protect credit card data that is on my website. We do not collect, we do not save, we ensure we do not save any credit card information on our website. We do not want it. We do not want that liability. But just the fact that we process the information, we have to go through this process. Well, once we have collected your credit card information, we don't want it. The risk is too much for us. HIPAA compliance, if you're into healthcare, if you're collecting information around health, you have to comply with what those HIPAA restrictions are. And if you're working with the government, those compliance could be FIPS compliance. Okay, so as I said, this could get pretty deep, and I could jump, like I could go into antivirus and malware protection for another 2 days, right? And systems that you could implement and how you should implement them. The important thing is you have access to the resources in IT, a proficient IT professional who can help you with this so that you can focus on what your core competence is. Otherwise, a lot of this could become could be overburdening to you. So have access to those IT professionals who can help you with a lot of this stuff. And if as BSOs you find this challenges, just imagine into some of the businesses that we would be dealing with over the next couple of months, right? And the next couple of years. This can make or break them. All right. That's the end of my slides. I know I was supposed to do a session on data analysis. We're going to jump into those. As I said, once we have the cohorts on board. I want to save some time for a discussion that we started earlier this morning. Philip was complaining, or not complaining, he was commenting that so far, we were anticipating at least 150 businesses for the training start in January, but so far we've gotten 66. Some countries have done better than others in recruiting the businesses, right? So obviously some BSOs are having challenges and some are doing pretty well. So this is an information sharing session. The company, the countries.
Gilbert, I'm happy to.
Oh yeah, great, you're back.
Just,
go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, so I just finished a meeting with the OS and the meeting underscores why what we're doing here is so critical, because they have a program of offering not a lot of money, but about $100,000 to various member states, precisely for issues about digital transformation, e-commerce adoption, and so on. And you know, you look at the program documents and the success of all these other programs, whether by OS, would definitely need BSOs who are capacitated to on-lend this sort of program to the companies in their jurisdictions. So it's I just thought I would let you know that to really situate how important the work we are doing here and you're doing here in building your capacity for this sort of stuff. The next 5 to 10 years, a lot of resources will be ramped up in precise in this area, and you position it, this training that you're currently a part of, will really position yourself to leverage these resources. It could also become a source of funding, because then you could, as a statutory body capable of bidding independent bids, maybe those of you who are just government departments, I'm not sure, but those of you are statutory bodies, you know, can then bid for supplier of services to many of these programs, and having the credentials of finishing this program and is critical.